Hello, my beautiful cuddlebugs. This is Allie, and welcome to Ramblings of a Book Dragon, my channel where I'm going to review books, TV shows such as K-dramas and C-dramas, as well as Broadway shows that will be on tour in my neck of the woods. I wanted to do something a little bit different this week by actually trying to plan what books I'm going to read and review for this month. By starting out with, I am currently in the middle of reading Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor, which is phenomenal. I'm going to save my actual review for later, but right now I can just say it is absolutely beautiful in every way, shape, or form. Laini Taylor is a goddess. This is the first time I've actually read any of her books, but so far I can see why there is a hype regarding her wordsmithing capabilities because they are awesome. So my plan is to finish Strange the Dreamer, which I'm at about 40%. And then next after that, I'm going to read Muse of Nightmares, which is the sequel to Strange the Dreamer. And then after that, I am planning on finishing up the Wisteria Society for Lady Scoundrels trilogy by reading The Secret Service of Tea and Treason. The first two books have been absolutely fantastic. I read them before I started the channel, but of course, I am more than happy to read them again if anyone is interested in those reviews. Then I also plan on reading If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. This seems like the perfect time of year to be able to do that since it's nice and fall and cozy season, and so I've heard a lot of really great things about it. And then depending on how things go, I would also like to read Witch of Wild Things by Raquel Vasquez Gillard, I believe. And so we shall see how everything goes with that plan. Meanwhile, for this episode, I plan on doing a compare and contrast between two murder mysteries, The Guest List and The Golden Spoon. So right now I read 3 books this month, which is a lot better than last month where I only read 3 books throughout the entire month. That is not a good situation, but I digress. But these books I had started to read in October, and I just happened to finish reading it after Halloween, so I thought, why not make this my November books? So basically, I'll start off with the plot, then what I liked and disliked about the books, and what I thought each author did really well in terms of the build up to the murder. So the guest list plot is the couple gets married on an island off of the coast of Ireland and invites all of their friends and family to celebrate. But it's pretty apparent from the get-go that they are all just a bunch of, well, in American terms, frat boys, because they're a bunch of group of men who want to relive their glory days and are generally a rich, entitled, and unlikable group. Someone in the book dies, obviously, and then throughout the series of the book, we get little hints and nibbles of what's going on with this, which I thought was really great because she would do like a short little chapter of the wedding night and building up that tension, and then she would go back to the next chapters. So each chapter, take a step back, each chapter is from each character's perspective, and there's about 5 characters that we're following, and so we're following each chapter and their characters, each character and their backstory, and then kind of getting their thought process on how they interact with the other characters. And I thought it was very interesting and very well done in that regard. My only issue with the author, and the author's name is Lucy Foley for The Guest List, and then the name for The Golden Spoon is Jessa Maxwell. My only issue with Lucy Foley is I've read 2.5 of her books so far, and the 2 that I read and finished were really good, but it kind of becomes apparent that she has a bit of a template that she follows for her stuff, and that there's generally a group of people that are somewhere away from everyone else, and then a murder happens, and the group of friends are generally very unlikable. But I do plan on rereading her winter book, which was The Hunting Party. That happens between Christmas and New Year's. And I did really enjoy both of these books, but then when I started to read the 3rd book of hers that I read, which was The Paris Apartment, it just became really apparent to me that it was, generally speaking, the same situation. Now, I am more than likely wrong in that some of her other books are very different, but that's just what I found from 2.5 of her books, and I just was done with it by The Paris Apartment. So please let me know if there's something different with that. I would greatly appreciate any recommendations of hers, because I do really like her writing and her ability to build up that tension. And so I would really greatly appreciate any other recommendations that anyone has. Now, The Golden Spoon, on the other hand, is a very similar premise in that it's a group of people who are at a manor house in Vermont to compete on a baking show. It's 6 bakers who are competing for the Golden Spoon, and they call it the Great British Bake Off meets The Maid, and I haven't read The Maid, so I wouldn't know about that, but I also haven't seen the Great British Bake Off, but I do get the premise of it, and that it's all very sweet and kind, and there's a grandmother type host, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the book. My only issue with this book, well, one of my issues with the book is that it seemed like it was a lot more focused on a couple other mysteries that were going on. Mainly that one of the women on the show, we find out that she grew up in the manor and she's trying to figure out what happened to her mom because her mom disappeared when she was 10. So there's that, and then there's also another issue of someone on set, someone there sabotaging all the contestants. We don't know who it is. We don't know what's going on with that. And so it seems like that was more of the focus, and that the murder just happens at the end. And she just kind of gives us a hint that there's a murder at the beginning, and then we go back in time, and it's the same premise of following each of the different characters throughout the show, and we learn more about their backstories. And I will say that the positive of The Golden Spoon is that the majority of the characters are very likable. They're sometimes idiots that I want to smack because of their thought processes and what they're wanting to do. But generally, for the most part, they are very likable, and I was very happy with the way things ended for the majority of them. My other issue is the way that the author wrapped it up, and that it was... I'm not going to spoil it or anything like that, or at least I'm going to try my best not to, but just the way that the author kind of wrapped it up all nice and neat, it didn't quite make sense to me, and I feel like there should have been a bit more stuff going on than what they did with the investigation. It just didn't sit right to me, at least with the guest list, the way that the author handled the ending and all of that. It did make sense because of everything else that was going on, the way that she brought everything up and then actually told us what happened, showed us what happened, I thought was really, really good. And so it just, I don't know. I liked them both. I gave them both 4 stars because they were both really good. It's just a matter of pick your poison in terms of what kind of characters you're wanting. Are you wanting very unlikable characters where you wouldn't be upset if any of them died? And like there's maybe 1 or 2 there's maybe 2 or 3 characters, I want to say, throughout the entire course of this book that are actually generally likable. Or do you want The Golden Spoon, where there are several mysteries that are going on, and the murder is kind of it just happens at the end type of situation. So it's really a pick your poison there. So I did kind of go over some of the other things I wanted to talk about regarding Lucy Foley's writing, and I did really like her writing in that she really did a great job with that tension building, because like I was saying before, she had a mini chapter devoted to the wedding night where you're wondering, you're not really sure of who died, what the situation was, and so you were getting that tension throughout the entire book. While on the other hand, with The Golden Spoon, it was like you see something happening at the beginning and then everything else is going on, and then at the end the murder happens, and then it's trying to figure out who did it, but it didn't really go into much of a whodunit. So that was my disappointment there. Like, as far as the murder mystery aspect of it, I would give the Golden Spoon more of a 3 out of 5, but for just the general likability of the situation, I did give it a 4, but I'm also probably extremely very generous with my stars. I'm not very picky about it. So that was that. And I do plan on reading The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley later on again, and I think I might do a compare and contrast between The Hunting Party and The Guest List, because there were things that she did differently in each one that I found was very interesting in terms of character development. And yes, there is still the general unlikability of the majority of the characters, but I found it very interesting how with one book you really don't hear from one of the people there until the very end, while with the other one, you hear about you hear from pretty much everyone in the book except for a couple of situations. But that's my wrap up, I would say. And please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think about this week's ramble. I hope it was at least semi-entertaining. But you can find me on YouTube and Apple Podcast, anywhere where you can find your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Audible. So all the fun places, and please let me know if you have any book recommendations for me. I don't really have any K-drama or musical situations happening at the moment. I'm kind of in the middle of a couple of them, and they're actually one thing that I was thinking about doing when I finish the really long Chinese drama of Ru Yi's Royal Love in the Palace. I want to do a compare and contrast between that one and Yangtze Palace because they both are following the same emperor and his harem. And so you're basically seeing some of the same situations from different angles, except of course each one has their own level of drama and their own situations regarding the harem. But they were both I'm almost done with Yangtze Palace because I got to, like, I want to say episode 65 in the past, and then I kind of just dropped it for a while, and so I decided to restart it, and I'm almost finished with it. I have a couple more episodes to go, while with Ru Yi's Royal Love in the Palace, I'm on episode 17, so I have a really long ways to go because that episode 70. But what I might just do is do like a general observation of it even before I'm completely finished, because that is going to take some time to do. But please let me know what you think, if that's something that you'd be interested in, as well as a few other compare and contrasts. I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to make this podcast, what progression I'm going to do with this. Like if you're interested in a monthly wrap up of the books that I read, or since I'm practically doing all of my books each time I review anyway, if you feel like that's a waste of time and energy, I might do that at the beginning of the episode, actually, to do like for the first episode of the month, of the next month, as kind of a wrap up of this is what I read, how am I doing for my plans for this year. And it's actually funny, I'm at 48 books for this year out of 50, so I'm gonna have to figure out how many more I think I can do by the end of the year. But yeah, so that's my excitement for this week, and I hope you enjoyed it.